People who killed pets by accident. What happened?
I backed over my neighbor's cat because it was sleeping under my car. My fish in the pond. Bought some product to clean the algae so we could see the fish better. We read the instructions and poured away. Turns out you had to take the fish out the pond. We basically suffocated them. We put them in fresh bucket of water but it was too late. When I was a kid I had a guinea pig. During my birthday party, I think me and my friends gave it chocolate and other candies to eat. He died during the night. I left my sister's hamster cage open when she was 6 and it jumped out of the cage and died. I still think that she hates me for it. I kind of did. I had 2 hamsters of different breeds and I accidentally put the Syrian back in the Russian's cage. The Russian jumped out of its bed and went for the Syrian, but the Syrian, being about twice the size, had the upper hand and bit the Russian's back. So the Russian had to get put down because it couldn't walk properly after that. I dropped a rock on bird. I don't know why I did. I was stupid little kid. I still feel bad thinking about it. If I could go back in time, I would change that. I gave my hamster cheese since he seemed to like it. After he died, I found out it could actually kill them. Had a turtle once as a kid. So I decided he needed to be cleaned cause he smelled horribly. So I just went to the kitchen and started the water running and next thing I know is that his parts that were showing on the outside were nothing but mush. Either it was already dead or I had just killed him with hot water. Also he was a small turtle about 1 inch long, barely to put a perspective for size. My sister decided to sleep with her hamster. When I was about 10, there was a big thunderstorm that knocked out our power, so we were using candles to see. For some reason, I decided my guinea pig needed to be near us, so I brought its cage to sit near the candle on our dining room table. Well, whatever was in the candle must have been toxic to the guinea pig because it collapsed shortly after and didn't recover. It took a long time to realize why it died, and I felt so guilty since figuring out that the candle was to blame. My siblings and I made a cardboard climbing tower for our chinchilla. We got back to the house one day to find him pinned up against his glass tank by the fallen structure. It was pressed right up against his neck. He suffocated to death. Not me, but I once read about someone who killed their puppy by accidentally shutting its head in the car door. That was about 6 or so years ago and I'm still paranoid about getting my cat's head caught in any of the doors at home. We didn't check the heater in our fish tank. After a while it malfunctioned and most of our fish died. See, the water was too hot. I feed my first goldfish dry spaghetti. It died. When I was a kid, me and my brother both had hamsters. My brother liked to throw mine in the air and catch him because he liked to watch him flail its legs in the air, so I decided to do the same to his hamster one day. I gave it a few throws and catch and I wanted to do one last big throw. I didn't catch him by accident. I quickly put him back in his cage and tried to pretend nothing happened. I did tell him I was responsible about 8 years later when we were both adults. I tried to clean his fish tank but he flopped when I picked him out and I freaked out and dropped him. I was only like 9 but man I felt bad. I had a hamster whose cage I left in the bay window in the living room. I was 6, decided she needed sunlight, came home from the public pool and she had basically cooked to death. Cried for days. Some of the fish in our fish tank had laid eggs and they hatched. My dad didn't check the water temp of the container he was transferring the baby fish into. The water was too cold, and the little fish were basically rupturing instantaneously after they were moved into the new container. He said it was like tiny fireworks with no sound. Not me, but my auntie killed 2 pets. The first was a rabbit who wouldn't stop thumping in the middle of the night. My auntie got annoyed because it was keeping her up but never bothered to check on it. Then in the morning she found it dead with its head stuck between the bars of its cage. Then another time she found her hamster dead in my cousin's room where it had been like that for a couple of days. She had no idea how it died as it was a pretty new hamster. They then proceeded to have a small funeral where they buried it in the front garden. It was a few days later when talking to other parents about it at the school she found out that hamsters can hibernate for up to a week. I was 7-ish and my cat wouldn't come back inside. It was about to rain and she also wouldn't let me pee, so I put her in a box. I didn't mean to shoot him, he just caught me by surprise. When I was about 7 we had gerbils. One of the habit rail TM cages we used had these paddles that flipped and slotted into ground to prevent passage. One night, I went to pull out that paddle to keep a gerbil in the main cage area for the night, but I must have caught its little foot and broke it. I, being a remarkably dim little boy, had zero idea what I'd just done. It was dead the next day, no clue what the actual cause of death was. I mean, it sucked, but I never liked gerbils in the first place. Jumpy, bitey little bastards. Our bunnies had a baby. The mom died during the birth, so I tried to raise the baby. I kept it between my boobs for warmth and slept on the couch sitting up so that I could take care of it during the night. It got a little bigger and I was sleep deprived and it crawled down my top and suffocated. That was terrible. I told my kids we gave it to the vet to take care of. I felt so shitty. I knew it didn't have a great chance because of no breast milk, but I was hoping to give it a chance. When I was around 3 to 4 years old, I was chasing a little chicken with my scooter. I was laughing at the way it ran. I didn't have any bad intention, I wanted to play. Then accidentally I moved too fast and went through it. I remember I was running back to my father crying after seeing that little creature didn't move. I'm 26 and it still haunts me. I'm so sorry. Not me, but my mom. A long time ago, possibly 2003 to 2006, my sister had a hamster and she was in love with it. One day, the hamster broke out of the cage. Mum had no idea, while Mom was vacuuming the house. My mum picks up my sister's Barbie dream house to vacuum under it, and once she puts it down, she hears a squeal. My sister's hamster wedged itself under the house before my mom set it down, and was squished to death in the process. My mom felt so bad she immediately went to the pet store and bought an identical hamster. My sister didn't find out until a year ago. We were talking about it at a family dinner. I killed my daughter's hamster. I was a dumbass about hamsters. We used an old fish aquarium for its home. Strike 1. Put said aquarium on top of her dressing by the window. Strike 2. Left the window shade open so that double sunlight was blasting on the poor little guy, or girl, I don't know. Sadly, she's the one who found it. Bad dad. When I was about 7, my mom used to breed birds. And this beautiful albino finch had fallen from its nest. It was still young. So stupid me decided, hey, let's put it in the water dish. I repetitively did this, trying to bathe it. Then it stopped fighting and I left it. It drowned. My mum to this day still thinks it just happened to fall in. A relative spent thousands in vet bills, like 10 grand, to correct a stomach issue on his beloved purebred poodle and accidentally backed him over a couple months later. I misread teaspoon as tablespoon for fish food and commuted fish genocide. My dad accidentally killed my sister's cat when I was a baby. She was around 12-13. We lived in Florida and it was way back when Florida had cold winters back in the 70s. Her cat got out for the night and when my dad started the car the next morning to go to work, he found out that the cat got up in the engine area to stay warm. He of course immediately turned off the car and tried to get the cat out so he could take it to the vet, but he wouldn't let my dad get close enough to help. The cat managed to get himself out and my dad grabbed a towel to wrap its mangled body in to go to the vets. He died as they got him in the back for treatment. I was screwing around and pointed my AR-15 at my dog. I had my finger on the trigger and was pulling the trigger just a bit until it took up the slack. I thought the safety was on and stopping the trigger. I just thought it was funny that my dog had no idea what a gun was or that she should be scared. Well, the safety was off and it was just the trigger spring tension that was stopping it. So I did it again just a little bit harder and the gun went off and literally blew half of her head off. I've never killed a pet because even at a young age I was gentle with animals, not like certain kids who growing up act way too rough with random small animals. I've seen a lot of accidental pet deaths that were entirely parents, kids' faults being too rough, not caring, or not getting them proper care. When I was 16 at my brother's birthday party, these 4 kids were grabbing my dog's dick, and I saw and my dog was trying to get away and they were holding him so they could grab at him. I almost beat the shit out of 10-year-olds. Must suck to be an animal sometimes.